You're watching TVC Breakfast. Now, the festive season, a time for laughter and celebration, took a sad turn for some communities in Zamfara state as bandits killed 10 persons and abducted 33 others. The victims are mostly women and children, and few men among them. Now, the bandits also set ablaze shops, houses, carted away large quantity of food items and other valuables belonging to the locals. TVC News gathered that the bandits stormed the villages on motorcycles and spent hours unleashing mayhem on the villagers. Zamfara state is one of the states most affected by banditry in northern Nigeria. This is the crux of our discussion next, and I have joining me via Zoom to discuss this the CEO of Security Watch Africa, Patrick Agbambu. Patrick, it's good to have you join me this morning.
Thank you very much.
Great. Now, I know you had a great celebration during the Christmas and the Yuletide, but let's get into the story that is not very pleasant for a lot of people, especially for the families that got a few of their members killed and others abducted. Now, there has been promises from government at one time or the other, especially at this Yuletide. I recall that the Inspector General of Police had given an order that security be tightened in many parts of the country. But hearing this, I wonder how prepared we are or how well the security was that we had this sad incident at the Yuletide.
It's quite unfortunate and a sad incident that we still have this happen. Very, very unfortunate. My heart goes for the family and the people that lost their loved ones in that incident. But one thing that is for sure is that it's not possible for the security forces to dominate all the spaces. There are so many ungoverned spaces, and the strength of the security forces, the police and the armed forces, and even the civil defense all joined together cannot cover the landmass we're talking about. So the IGP gave instruction. I know that the Operation Hardening Daji by the armed forces are also doing their work, but yet it will not be able, it's not sufficient enough to cover the whole space to prevent any of such attacks, but it's a sad situation.
All right, if we admit that there are lots of governed spaces and we are not able to, or we are not going to be able to cover all of those, then what is left for Nigerians to do? Because the point there is Nigeria is a large country. We all understand that, from the expanse to the population and all of that. But Nigeria is going to be Nigeria and it's going to remain Nigeria. So what is left to be done where we don't have this issues? Or do we accept that banditry has come to stay with us and we have to live with it that way?
No, we shouldn't accept that banditry has come to stay. But banditry is a crime just like kidnapping is. And so it's been on. Kidnapping has remained with us. And so banditry is also there. But the biggest challenge is the paucity of funds to be able to inject enough manpower and resources to be able to police the vast land that Nigeria is having. So the best way to answer your question is the engagement of these communities in security. In actual fact, these are the best thing to do. For a very long time, the Nigerian communities have failed the communities themselves because we have not owned our security. We have left it to the security agencies, and they are not enough to provide it for us. Many times, before these bandits got emboldened and began to strike wantonly like this, we allowed them to have sanctuaries in our forests, in our farmlands, in even within our communities, without taking the preemptive steps of reporting and dislodging these people early enough. Sadly, now it's here with us, which is sad. So the communities have to really get involved, not principally by carrying arms, but by giving timely information. The information I gathered for the attack of this community was that this happened for a long time, one, but the police and other security forces did not get to know about these things early enough, because those areas, there were no telecommunication facilities to get across. So this is one of the issues, because it's one of the communities that cannot be accessed easily through communication, and is a sad situation. So as a matter of urgency, I believe that government must look for a way to get into the communities by their support and their attention to be able to get what is required to protect them. If possible, you have to use a stick and carrot, though, because the loss of every single Nigerian is a failure on the part of government. And so government must do everything to ensure that the people fall in line to provide the necessary information. Situation where communities are more relaxed, more comfortable dealing with bandits should be discouraged. And that is one of the biggest problems that we're having, where communities would rather give information to criminals for two reasons. One, because they feel relaxed with with these bandits, because these are their children, these are their loved ones. Two, because they are being coerced or being forced to not to provide information, and they are being threatened that when you give information, will come and attack you. And in some cases, they do that. So that has made the communities to either lose faith in the security forces or to decide to dance along with the bandits.
All right. Now, from your assessment over the past year or even months, from what the government has promised, what the government is doing, what the state government is doing, what has really changed, really, when it comes to the security of the people, like in Zamfara State, from your assessment?
Seriously, nothing significant has changed. Yes, we do have some periods where attacks were being stopped. I must commend the security forces. They are trying their best, but as it seems now, their best has not yielded the necessary dividends or results that Nigerians are yearning for. The air interdictions, air attacks had helped to neutralize and incapacitate some of the bandit strongholds, but still they are able to commit one or two atrocities, so which is not good enough. This particular one is a very sad one. I have been monitoring situations in the northeast and the northwest, and I can tell you that during this holiday period, there were relative peace, there were security forces, they upped their game, and people were protected. So the case in Zamfara happened to be one of those isolated cases, but it's a very sad one. And I think the security forces must intensify their strikes on the identified location where these people are hibernating, and get the communities to work with them.
All right. Now, the much talked about Super Tucanos that were promised have been bought, and they are all in the country. Recall that Nigerians had the hope that when the Super Tucanos come to the country, terrorism, banditry, and all of those will be a thing of the past because of the makeup of the Super Tucanos and what they can do, and and all of that. We have the 12 Super Tucanos now, yet we're still battling the same thing we battled a year ago. What is really going on from what you know?
Yes, it's not a 100-meter dash. The availability of Super Tucano is not a 100-meter dash that will just take off all these criminals off our streets and our forests. So it's not that like that. There are processes, there are limitations. You know that the security forces operate within the international best practices, and there are conventions in situation in any whether war or engagement you are involved. There are rules of engagement. So it's not possible that the Super Tucano will just go and start dropping bombs and all that, because there will be a lot of collateral damages. I know that Nigerians have high hopes that immediately comes they are deployed, that there will be magic, but it's not like that. It's going to be gradual process as there are other platforms of the Air Force are doing surveillance activities, operations, trying to pass the coordinates of the locations of these bandits to both the ground forces and the interdiction forces. Actions will be taken. It's going to be gradual, and steadily these people will be eliminated. I just want to plead with Nigerians to exercise patience, that these platforms will bring the expected results. I know that it's not easy to tell those who lost their loved ones to just exercise patience, but that is the reality. We had allowed these people for a very long time to form a government, quote and unquote, in their areas where they dominate, where they control for a very long time, and it's not very easy to just flush them out. And by the way, some of these communities, some of these forests where these bandits are staying, where they have their camps, you have communities around those axes. There are communities on the routes where they passes, and so the Air Force are a bit handicapped, because you can't just drop bombs and start killing Nigerians. The effect will be that Nigerian armed forces and Nigerian government will be charged for genocide, for killing its citizens. You remember that was one of the reasons why there was objection in giving us these Super Tucanos and all the hardwares that we requested, because the international community, they are afraid that the Nigerian armed forces must not and should not use it against Nigerian citizens. So they are being careful, and that is the right way to go. But gradually, they will get these people off our country.
All right, let's talk about the issue of trust between Nigerians and the government when it comes to government making appeal that the citizens should give them information when it's needed. You talked about that earlier on, but let's talk about what it takes for government to be able to build the trust, because you talked about ungoverned spaces earlier where people are not feeling the impact of government. People don't see what government is doing. People are not, they don't have the presence of government in those places that are called ungoverned spaces. And if the bandits are closer to them and deal with them on daily basis and threaten them on daily basis and carry out whatever promise or whatever threat that they make to the people on daily basis or weekly or monthly basis, as the case may be, how will government begin to gain the trust of people in those kind of areas?
Yeah, it's sad, really, but that is the reality that we have on ground. The citizens do not have trust in any government establishment, any government organization in this country, and it will not good enough, and is working against the citizens themselves. I think the best thing for the citizens to do is to have trust. And no matter how bad you think the government actions may seem, there is need to just give a try, because it's better than what we're having when you don't trust, and yet you are still being, you cannot surrender to non-state actors. You can't allow them to have a domination of your activities. They will come back to you. There are situations where communities resort to having some unregistered vigilantes to provide securities for them. Some streets do that. But if there's any default in terms of payment or whatever they're supposed to pay happen, then you see criminals start attacking that street. That is how it goes. So you must build trust in the security forces, because we can see that they are trying their best. Their best may not be as we expect, but it's the best way to go. Like the popular saying says, if you don't trust the police, if you don't say police is your friend, then you go and call the thug. At the end of the day, the thug may come back against you and hurt you. So I think that these Nigerian citizens should begin to trust the law enforcement agencies and give them. There are means of passing information these days without being identified. If you are afraid that if you pass information, you may be exposed, there are means you can pass information and you still remain safe. So that is just the best way to go. So many years, the government has failed Nigerians. People has, those in authority, those they voted for have failed them. That is true. But we don't have a better option than to trust them. And that is the only way to go. One thing we should also know is that the government security forces and the government, just 40% is what they owe us in terms of security. We are the ones who must provide the needed 60% so that we can be secured and safe. So if we have this mindset, if we understand this, like it's done in civilized countries where everybody is a security man, you give information, you may call it snitching, but if you see that your neighbor, you are not too sure of his livelihood and what he's doing, you must pass information to security agencies. Though some may say you are snitching on your neighbor, but that is the right way to go because you must be protected. Even if it's your own child, is doing something you are not very sure of, and you feel you cannot control him, then you report to security forces so that something can urgently be done to correct that. But here, we tend to protect some of all these actions until it backfires against us.
All right, let's talk about the role of neighboring countries. We know that there has been a multinational joint task force against terrorists and all of the terrorism and even terrorists who are, acting from across the borders and so on. Although we have not heard so much from that activity anymore since the days of Boko Haram, and when it comes to the prominence that Boko Haram had, they've not had it the way they used to have it anymore, which commendations go to what the security agencies are doing. But now that we've had more of banditry rising from the reports we get, what are the roles of neighboring countries in helping Nigeria to curtail the activities of these people?
Yes, just like you said earlier, we must commend the security forces for the wonderful jobs they have done and they are doing in the Northeast. The Joint Task Force Northeast Operation Hadinkai, being commanded by Major General Christopher Musa, is doing a wonderful job. The multinational Joint Task Force that is headquartered in the Jamina, Chad, headed by Major General Abdul Khalifa Ibrahim, is also doing a great job. And just recently, he had a four-nation tour of Cameroon, Chad, and Niger, and even into Nigeria to buy their confidence and their support towards this fight. And we are seeing the results coming out positively in that axis. I had warned several months ago that with the successes being achieved in the Northeast, pressure will be on the other parts of the country, particularly Northwest, North Central, and some parts of the southern states. And that is what the reality that we're having on ground. I believe that the Operation Hadinkai that is in the Northwest should get stronger and get intensified than what is being done now. Our borders along the periphery of the Northwest, which primarily is with Niger, has not done so well in protecting the Nigerian communities. And that, I think that with the new president of Niger, I think Nigerian government may have to put more pressure on them to be able to help stop all these incursions, because this is real. It's sad that, but you cannot wish it off really, that some of those communities are that axis, are that periphery, they share a common identity, common culture, and even communities, they intermarry and live together, farm together, So it's difficult to identify those who are Nigerians and those who are Nigerians. So it's very, very difficult. But I still think that the community heads in those areas must do something very, very strong to be able to prevent these incursions. Rightly so, some of these attacks are coming from those who can easily strike in Nigeria and just walk across, or like what some people would say, disappear out of the country. But we know the identities, we know where they're coming from. Those areas where they're attacking, I think there's a lot of responsibility that must put there. I think Mr. President, the President of Nigeria, has a whole lot of work to do in doing strong diplomatic overtures with Niger Republic and Benin, part of Benin Republic, to ensure that this thing does not continue.
All right. We have to leave you here now. Patrick Bambu, the CEO, Security Watch Africa, thank you so much for talking to us on this issue today. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Right.